Hello again, and thanks very much for joining us. I am Michael Nath. The House of Representatives Committee on Public Accounts has commenced a full-scale investigation of 115 ministries, departments and agencies of the federal government for spending over 600 billion naira outside their approved budgets on salaries and other allowances. Office of the Auditor General for the Federation, which issued a query on the illegal expenditure, said the amount was spent between 2018 and 2022. The OAUFGF advised that the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation to investigate the sources of the extra budgetary expenditures and reasons for non-compliance with financial regulations. The Accountant General of the Federation, Silva Okoliabo, had told the committee that some of the expenditures were made based on existing circulars and directives. The office said that the failure to justify the sources and reasons for the expenditures totaling 641.75 billion naira, the officers in charge should be held responsible. The federal government is pushing for funding to the tune of $400 billion to help implement Nigeria's energy transition plan. The Minister of Environment, Mohammed Abdullahi, said a push was being made at the ongoing 27th Conference of Parties, also known as COP27, holding at Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt. He disclosed this in his address on the federal government's expectations at the ongoing conference. Abdullahi said part of what we'll do is to galvanize the action plan for Africa to push for a positive climate funding action from the developed countries. According to the report from the news agency of Nigeria, the minister said the amount being pushed for by Nigeria for the implementation of the country's energy transition plan was $400 billion. The minister said Nigeria was using the opportunity to call the attention of developed countries on the impact of their industrialization on developed countries and the need for them to mitigate this. Abdullahi expressed confidence that he and his team of negotiators will return to the country with a strong, dependable and bankable commitment from the development partners and other investors. Barely 2 weeks after the announcement of plans by the Central Bank of Nigeria to redesign some naira notes, about 52 billion naira cash has been deposited. According to the CBN, there were indications that the deposit sum may increase in the next few days because it is suspected that about 3 trillion naira cash was in circulation at the time the Apex announced the policy. The CBN claimed that some of the identified depositors were politicians, bureau de change operators, businessmen, real estate financiers, traders, and others. It was also learned that the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission and other security agencies have directed banks to keep records of depositors, including institutions. CBN said as of the end of September 2000, that's 2.73 trillion naira out of the 3.23 trillion naira currencies in circulation was outside the vaults of commercial banks and supposedly held by the public. Now, the Federal Inland Revenue Service has announced that Nigeria telecommunications frontline companies MTN and Airtel, as well as deposit money banks DMBs, will now be saddled with the responsibility to withhold value-added tax VAT charged on all taxable supplies made to them, which will subsequently be remitted to the federal government's account. Reacting to the new policy, which will be effective by January 2023, analyst Nelson Ekujimi said that while the initiative might engender accountability and transparency, he is optimistic that the policy will give room to the creation of more jobs.
FRS is trying to decentralize part of its responsibilities, and if that would allow for accountability and transparency, all well and good. And you and I know for free that if the telecommunication service providers, the deposit money banks are saddled with this responsibility, it means inadvertently that more jobs will be created in these institutions. So for me, so long as what is due can be collected appropriately and there will be no hanky-panky from any quarter, I'm home and dry with it. But looking back at if the government is justifiable in the way it expends the taxes that has been collected from the citizens, I think that is a responsibility for every one of us. It is not enough for us to just sit down, not keep government on its toes, don't ask for information and assume in our wildest imagination that our taxes are not being used appropriately. We need to get the data, we need to get the facts, we need to look at projects, we need to ask questions. In that way, we'll be able to, cross-examine if really our taxes are being used appropriately. As we speak every day, government has responsibility for so many areas of our lives: education, health, roads, social investment, security, and what have you. So if we don't have the facts of how much has been collected and how much has been spent, I don't think it will be, it will be tidy enough for us to just assume that maybe our taxes are not being justifiably expended. We need to ask questions.
The Plateau State Executive Council has approved a proposed budget estimate of 139.3 billion naira to be sent to the State House of Assembly for passage into law as appropriation for the 2023 budget year. The State Executive Council agreed on the budget proposal during an Executive Council meeting chaired by Governor Simon Bako Lalong. Briefing newsman after the meeting, Commissioner for Information and Communication Dan Manjang said the proposed budget is a capital expenditure proposal of 61.7 billion naira and 77.6 billion naira as recurrent expenditure. He said the budget, which has an increase of about 37% over the 2022 approved budget, will be transmitted to the House of Assembly for legislative action on a date to be fixed. Benue State Governor Samuel Otom on Tuesday presented the 2023 appropriation bill of 179 billion naira to the State House of Assembly. The budget, titled Budget of Consolidation and Transition, has a recurrent expenditure of 106 billion naira with capital expenditure put at 73 billion naira. Otom said that 48 billion naira was for personnel costs, while 57 billion naira was earmarked for subheads. The governor said the budget provision reflects our continuing commitment to job-creating and wealth-generating agricultural value chain in development, with adequate provisions for key inputs such as land development, mechanization, provision of inputs to farmers, including fertilizer, seeds and seedlings, irrigation and chemical services, and completion of education, health and transport infrastructure projects, including arterial access and township roads. Otom reiterated the determination of his government to finish strong in service of the people, especially in its trying times, pledging that he would faithfully pay workers' salary arrears. The Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited stock of premium motor spirit, popularly called petrol, dipped by 5,400 or 5,481,239 litres. That's according to industry data released on Tuesday. Although the drop in PMS stock was marginal, as queues for petrol persisted in Abuja, Nasarawa, Niger, and some other northern states. Figures obtained from the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority on Tuesday indicated that the total PMS stock of NNPC as at November the 6th, 2022 was 1,912,725.464 litres. This dipped to 1,907,244.225 litres on November the 7th, 2022, indicating a drop of 5,481,000 1,239 litres, while the total days sufficiency was 30.84, according to the NDPRA data as at November the 7th. However, the queues for petrol in many northern states did not abate on Tuesday, despite the claims by NDPRA that there were over 30 days sufficiency, and the cost had risen to as high as 200 naira per litre at depots. After weeks of relief, diesel prices appear to be on the rise again, partly in response to the volatility in the energy markets over concerns about supply from Europe and unstable foreign exchange rates. Speaking on Business Breakfast earlier in the day, public affairs analyst Sumbo Badejo Joko blamed the crisis on the government's inaction over the years. He, however, expressed optimism on the coming year.
Very terrible and pathetic situation that we have found ourselves in Nigeria now, because and it's all a product of inactions of the government over the years. As an oil-producing nation, we are not supposed to be importing refined petroleum products. But unfortunately, we are importing refined petroleum products. And that is the reason why we are in this mess. Had it been we are not importing, whatever happens in the global market will be to our advantage. I would want to help, what is it called? I want to end on this optimistic note that, well, there are measures being put in place that the coming year is going to be good if there are no, God forbid, any form of emergency or unforeseen circumstance. Because with the innovation being brought by the Manufacturer Association, with Dangote coming on board, with Port Harcourt Refinery coming on board, the petroleum or diesel crisis will go down. And with Siemens also helping in the transmission and the reworking of the grid, there will be improved in the real power, the power sector. So when these are in place, of course, we will have a very robust manufacturing industrialization process going on, and of course that would spill out on our GDP, which is something that the nation will be really in need of come next year.
The UK Foreign Secretary James Cleverly has said at least 4 million Nigerians will benefit from the £95 million PropCom Plus investment aimed at increasing productivity and adapting to the effects of climate change, while at the same time reducing emissions. Cleverly revealed this at the COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt. In a statement made available by the British High Commission on Tuesday, the new £95 million PropCon program set to help address key barriers to sustainable agricultural development in Nigeria. It will support the development of climate-resilient agricultural policies, actions, and investments that deliver nutrition, increased productivity, adapt and build resilience while reducing emissions, and protect and restore natural ecosystems. According to the statement, the new PropCom Plus program involves supporting inclusive and resilient growth by promoting the progressive transformation of Nigeria's rural economy. UK Deputy High Commissioner in Lagos, Nigeria, Ben Llewellyn Jones, said Nigeria is vulnerable to climate change. Llewellyn, however, noted that the UK is committed to supporting climate-resilient growth in Nigeria. Still to come, Elon Musk loses market value, sells shares worth $3.95 billion. Details of this and more after this commercial break. Stay with us.